Okay, we're back, and hopefully, people have stayed with us through the technical hitch with Tommy not being able to currently be seen. So let's let's hope he can manage it this time. I see that he's joined, so let's see when he makes the request, and that should just be quite easy. Hewitt-Jones and wait. Okay, so let's see. So hello to everyone who's joining back again, and to people that I know, of which there are a few. And yes, I can hear Tommy again, but I can't see him.
This is an absolute mystery. I don't understand because it's never done this before, and normally the technology behaves itself so well, doesn't it? It's just absolutely bizarre.
Are you on a laptop or are you using a tablet?
I'm on my camera phone, and it's never had a problem.
Okay.
So I can't explain this at all, I'm afraid.
Oh.
What shall we do? I mean, shall I try again, or shall we just do a sort of ghost interview with this black scepter of a figure?
No, I feel a bit a bit bad.
Well, you look gorgeous, so don't worry about it.
Look, I put on my special shirt for the occasion because, you know, you being a prolific pianist and organist, but we would have loved to have see your face. So I just think you should also just be checking that your camera is not turned off. Okay, I'm just gonna, it still says, okay, so, well, should we just chat and see if your camera suddenly decides to go for it?
Yes!
Yes!
Yes! Hello, everybody. It's wonderful to be here, finally.
Oh, what are you like? Okay, that's good.
I don't know. You know what? Normally, I'm very, very technical, but I do have no idea why that didn't work. Anyway, it's lovely to see you finally. I thought I'd be talking as a black wall.
It for 10 minutes.
But Black Lives Matter. There we go. Very important.
So, yeah.
I have no Instagram. Anyway, lovely to see you, Max. Do you know, I remember when we first met, and do you want to tell it, or shall I tell it?
No, you tell it. I'm just going to send a big hug to Francois Xavier. Much love to you too.
Oh.
LSO's birthday today as well. We miss our principal guest conductor.
Amazing. Can I just say hi to Ben Volfish, the great Ben Volfish, who is listening. I think, now I don't know Ben, but I know a bit of his family because his brother was in the Alain's, joint foundation orchestra with me. And we used to mess about. But we had a lovely time. But they're a lovely family, and they're very, very wonderful musicians. It's lovely to see him.
Amazingly well. Everyone's heard his music now and living a wonderful life. We miss you here. So
in sunny LA, but we're in sunny Bromley here.
Bromley, yes, not far from my parents, in fact. So then, when I'm eventually able to go to Bromley and see my parents, I will drop in and say hello to you as well.
Please do.
And you're one of the people who've become a new dad during lockdown.
That's right. We just had our baby, and he's 7 weeks old. He's an absolute delight. It's very, very exciting to have a young baby, as I'm sure everyone knows who's had one, but he's an absolute bundle of laughs, and we're enjoying it very much. And yeah, so I've got this sort of home studio here, and I'm keeping going with my work. And the reason we met, Max, was because I think years ago my parents put us in for the Bromley Festival or Beckenham Festival years ago, and all of the cups and the trophies were Maxine Kwok, Maxine Kwok, Maxine Kwok, Maxine Kwok, Maxine Kwok. And I thought, who is this person? Who is Maxine Kwok? She's amazing, and I want to meet her. Anyway, then we met you at the ceremony, I think, for Beckenham Festival concerto class or something like that, and it was wonderful. What a lovely way to get music education going in the borough, and what an important role that is, you know, to inspire everyone. So anyway, so I knew your name years and years and years ago.
Simons, I was always like, there's these Hewitt-Jones brothers. Like, who are they? They're always like because
who the hell are they?
They're a bit younger than me, so I don't think we ever sort of met in the classes at the same time. But I just remembered the names, and so it's funny how, I mean, this is going back to in the 80s, and then when we finally sort of got to know each other and be friends, and it was like, oh my God, it's you.
I know, and it's wonderful, and it's such a delight to kind of, get to know you in retrospect after all those years of little performances. And yeah, and I'm intrigued by your LSO situation. So you're currently kind of doing all sorts of interesting things and keeping going. I saw you on the Barbican stage the other day, standing on the podium.
Oh,
Very exciting.
yeah, I probably shouldn't have been. I was running an errand for the orchestra backstage because there was a few we wanted to just check on a few things in the instrument store, that whether they were okay. So being obviously the closest person to to the Barbican Centre, it made sense that I would go in with a stage manager to have a look. So that was a bit naughty of me to go on stage. But we haven't played now for...
hi G, that's G. Hi G, how are you doing? Lovely to hear you, lovely to see you.
I know, gosh, and now I'm thinking about all these meals that we've had and we've met up and
I know. We busked together at Classic FM, I think, one year, yes. And then we sort of became friends with G.
That is such a good story, because anyone who saw what I posted on Twitter with us kind of wearing, well, you were in a normal outfit. I was in a sequin jacket, and Alice Jones had a wig on and stuff.
Actually, that's not quite true, Max, because they told us to dress as kind of loud 80s, yes, or something, and I didn't have any fancy dress that was at all 80s. So I went down my local Halfords to like look at some bike cycling gear that was like kind of vaguely fluorescent, and I gave my brother a really light fluorescent one, and I wore a dark purple cycling thing. So anyway. No, I'm intrigued by the situation. I mean, in terms of concert halls and the arts, I have an opinion, and I don't know whether anyone shares this opinion, but I think that all theatres and concert halls could turn into cooperatives, a bit like the French sort of farming idea, that you have cooperative, and all of the people who really care about the arts and care about the particular repertoire that you're doing, that care about the particular orchestra, or a bit like the LSO in a way, the people that care about it have a sort of interest in it in some way, and they really care about the repertoire, but the arts are for all. And also the fact that the investors have to realise that the arts are a really profitable part of the economy, and so the investors have to really put the seed capital in to looking at the long view, that actually, okay, we're in a really bad period right now for the arts, but if people can look at the sort of next 10, 15, 20 years, and of course they'll hopefully find a cure to COVID-20, or not, if not 19, they'll find a cure in the next, or not a cure, but an inoculation against
some kind of
some kind of antibody.
Right. It's absolutely tragic to see the amounts of arts organisations that are really so totally stressed out and stretched right now, and also there can be no argument that it's not vitally important to our lives. The amount of stuff people are looking at online, digitally, watching concerts, theatres, all this stuff, it's just so important to people's lives. But
we must give a shout out to the Wigmore and Nick Daniel and all the wonderful concerts that come out of Wigmore. I just think, it's food for the soul, and it's so important holistically. It's not just and obviously we've got to get people's interest up and get these wonderful pieces of repertoire out that need to be heard, in order for people to maintain their sort of mental health, as well as I've just been doing a single actually to do with mental health and keeping everybody happy in lockdown. And actually it's very, very important that people have access to the arts now, obviously, but people have to also come back to the concert halls, and it would be such a shame if the entire West End and all the concert halls were shut down. We have to do something about it, and I think people have been really rallying in the last couple of days, and I've watched a little bit of the debate this morning in Parliament about it, but the culture minister is kind of looking at it all. But I think it's very, very important that we think about different models, these cooperative models with seed investment somehow. I don't know, I don't have the answer, but something.
Yes, I know something has to be done, because it's just not, it's just can't happen that concert halls just don't remain closed. Of course, it's there's a cost involved in running them. It's not as simple as like just going in, yes, and saying, oh well, we can play to it. It's just they cost money, and our country has never been forefront of pushing money into arts. That's kind of the reality, which is very, very sad for us, but it's just so necessary. And you've been writing a lot in this time, as you say. You're writing something to sort of boost us during lockdown. So we can...
Well, I have, yeah, I have. I mean, the thing is, Max, I am one of a sort of quiet breed of production music composers, as well as I sort of have a dual sort of career because I'm a sort of serious choral composer and a bit of orchestral music as well, and like the Christmas Party, but a lot of choral music, and that's published by traditional music publishers. And then on the not on the side, it's more than on the side, the sort of dark side, which nobody talks about. I mean, I went out to LA and assisted David Buckley and did a bit of the LA thing and loved it in 2008. But, and this is a caveat, for me personally, I'm very much a sort of family man, so I really enjoy having, you know, being around the home and being around the baby and the wife, and I was going to say the friends and family, but in the COVID lockdown, there's nobody other than me and the baby and the wife. But do you know what I mean? But working sort of remotely and having a lot of production music, as it were, sort of the bread and butter. And what I love about production music is I'm not I'm a collaborator. I'm not a particularly great collaborator, so I don't particularly like, and don't take this the wrong way if any directors or music agents or producers watching, but I don't particularly like being stipulated down to the letter. I find that I find it sort of quite, I'm a very creative person, and I find that artistically, you know, I get the best results personally. This is just for me personally, and everyone's different, that I get the best results if I have a sort of brief. This is the kind of thing we're looking for, and we're looking for, you know, 20 tracks like that, and we need to sort of, this is the aim, this is what we're aiming at. And then I like to go off and create a narrative and actually really, you know, develop a language and write my own thing and just go completely mad and enjoy my own studio and my space and write music that I'm really proud of. And I found personally that for me gets much better results musically, but also artistically, and also, I mean, let's face it, also financially. You know, if it's genuine, if it's got integrity, this is the thing that I find that, you know, when I was doing a lot of advertising bits and pieces and, you know, bits of film music, I just found personally that I couldn't come away at the end of the day and say, that's my style, I really enjoyed that. I was constantly kind of molding myself to fit a brief, and that's absolutely fine. Like, you know, go and write action music in the style of Batman fight sequence for 3 minutes, absolutely fine. There are hundreds and hundreds of people who could do that, and there are a few people, and Ben's one of them, I don't know if Ben's still watching, who can really bring something different to that and make it really good and really, you know, elevate it above the sort of Hollywood, I'm not going to be rude here, but the sort of Hollywood level, and make something, you know, Oscar winning. But I personally, I really enjoy and thrive on having that ability to just kind of, you know, really creatively go off on one and really, you know, create something a bit different.
Well, I think it's not it.
End of diatribe.
No, but it's a certain skill to be able to, what I imagine, to compose to a brief. I can't imagine, because, you know, everyone might have, oh yes, you know, it's like when people say, oh, I've got a novel in me or whatever. You kind of, there's something about the creative expression. I suppose it's a bit like being in an orchestra, and you have an idea of how you want to play a piece, but essentially you're having to go with whatever the conductor is shaping the music for you. But yes, so I know you've done amazing compositions to a kind of brief that has to be, you know, the mysterious, you know, murder, this is happening for, you know, on the radio and stuff, but then your own,
what are your kind,
sort of your own kind of compositions, your choral works, you know, as if I want to say your more serious professional work is also just amazing, really, really amazing. I was saying earlier.
Well, you're too kind there, and I could compliment your violin playing and exactly the same. I think you're an incredible musician. I mean, the thing about it, Max, is that the temp track for me is something I really don't like, and I think that's probably the overriding thing for me. That, you know, when there's a very, very sort of, you know, basically we want, okay, a lot of times this happens. We want this track, we can't afford it because it's by Ed Sheeran. Could you make something that's the same that we can license because we've only got X amount of money? And for me, that is like putting you in a cage and saying, you can't have a creative bone in your body, you've just got to copy this. And I actually, on principle, I have issues with that, because I think, you know, if you or I or whoever or Ben or whoever it is writing something completely new, and then, you know, you get a ton of sort of library composers copying it for the next 2 years. You know what I mean? That's the problem. If you come up with something completely new, everybody wants to do the same thing. And I think it's much better to keep one ahead and be creating the new thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So
like it's a funny business. It's a funny business.
But you've been able, how, I suppose, being mostly a composer, your life might not have changed massively right now because you might be sitting in the studio.
No. And I was actually on the phone to John Rush this morning, who's been a sort of choral kind of mentor, but he's a friend of mine. And he basically reckoned, well, we both were saying, look, it hasn't really changed very much. And I know that's an incredibly lucky position, because I feel absolutely dreadful for most of my friends who are players, apart from you, Max, because you've got amazing ties with ESO. But a lot of my friends who are players are really struggling, and it is a really difficult thing. It's a terrible time. And so I've been mailing round a lot of USB microphones to people and getting them to do library production tracking for me, because the one thing that us composers can do, if portfolio composers, is actually be responsible and try and give a bit of work to people that are really good, who just have difficult time. I mean, they're all difficult times for everyone in different ways, but and we've had the baby and everything, so but and my wife's a nurse and she's on maternity, so there are various factors which make it a bit more bearable. But I know how hard it's been. It's an absolutely terrible situation, and thank you to government for helping people, but obviously there is always more to be done.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really sort of decimated the industry as such for so many people, because there's only so much a performer can do from home. And does anybody want to see another living room concert and this kind of thing? And then how do you arrange to have collaborations together? And so I've seen that you've done some with the Carducci quartet. And that's well, of course the trick is doing everything to click in lockdown, and it's sad, but there are ways of programming the click so it's musical. You don't have to say, oh well, because there's a click, it has to be 4 quadrat equals 100 and that's it. You can be very, very clever about it. And I think it's very interesting, because in the sense that everybody's got used to Zoom and everybody's got used to sort of online discussions, I think that people have really changed, and everybody's been contacting, and I'm sure every composer has had this. Everybody's been contacting, saying, I want to start tracking. I want to start being suddenly everybody wants to do recording, and I can understand why, because it's obviously a way forward in lockdown. But what is funny, Max, is a lot of people have been writing and saying, I want to do production. I want to be a production composer, and I just need to find a 9 to 5. And I'm like, well, it's not a 9 to 5. Like, it's the most opposite of a 9 to 5. It's all nighters to make a deadline, and it's crazy times, and it's all weekend, and it's neglecting family and friends, and it's not always easy. But it's what I find it difficult is I have done I think 2 or 3 recording projects in the amount of time that I haven't been working, and oh my god, recording yourself on a phone or something is like, it's so disheartening, and it's hard to sort of let yourself say, okay, well, that's okay if I'm gonna do this project. I mean, one of them was a project with like 200 musicians, so I sort of thought, okay, if the quality isn't going to be great on this, it's mixed with 200 people, so it's not life or death. But it is hard to sort of, when you're so used to hearing a sound of yourself either being recorded in a proper studio or that you're giving live concerts, it's really different when just me at home saying, okay, I'll record this for you on my phone, and with my headphones on, with my iPad, click, and it's not a very beauteous.
It's not very rewarding, is it? It's very interesting, because you have to really trust the tonmeister or the engineer when you're working like that. So the other day, somebody says, love the outfit. Yeah, we all love the outfit. You're made with tenor keys. So Maxine, this choir director I know called Rupert Goff phoned up at the beginning of lockdown and said he really wanted a hit for his choir, or at least a single for his choir. And we were thinking, well, okay, let's obviously aim for the top. And we got number 1 in iTunes Classical, and we felt very proud of that. But it was all done, recording in lockdown on iPhones. The whole thing was done on iPhones, apart from our celebrity soprano Laura Wright, who's brilliant, who came in, and she obviously has a mic at home because she does this sort of thing all the time. But everything was recorded on iPhones. And I mixed it all here, and then mastered at Abbey Road in lockdown. Actually, they drove, Simon Gibson, who's a legend, a friend of mine, he drove into Abbey Road and mastered it during lockdown before the studio opened up properly. So it's very exciting. But that was all done separately on iPhone, with 1 click in the ear, and then the sort of trick I found was to EQ everything highly, but also compress things quite clever, like sort of differently to usual, and just have a sort of image of what you want to do. And you have to really approach things in a very creative way, even with the sound design, to get that to sound. Hopefully, it sounds like it's not recorded in lockdown.
Amazing.
Maxine, I'm talking a lot about myself. I want to know about you. What's that Olympic violin behind you?
I'm just. It makes me think of
London 2012 violin. I want to know about.
Oh, I'll tell you in a minute. The LSO is releasing something. It should be fairly soon, and something educational that's coming out. Which, for the ones of us who had to take part, we did have to use our phones, and I'm assured that it's been mixed wonderfully by Classic Sound and everything. So look out for that. That should be coming out at any time soon. Oh, you want to know about my violin? Oh yeah.
Amazing. Yes, I do. I do want to know all about it.
It's just okay. As you know, the LSO played at.
Oh, the Barbican's joined. Hi, Barbican. The City of London's joined. This is getting big.
I know, it's like you sort of look. No, I played on that violin in the Olympic ceremonies because we we recorded at Air Lyndhurst previously. My friend Howard Goodall did the arrangement. That's right. And it's Mr. Bean. We sort of, it was decided we couldn't possibly play live on the night because the studio was all the stadium was all open air, and they said if it rains you're not supposed to move. So obviously that wasn't really doable. So we recorded in the months ahead, and then they basically brought out a load of props. And I thought, obviously they were bright red, shiny, horrendous. You couldn't make a sound out of them. They were literally like, if you tried to play too hard, the bridges just flew off. So I sort of like remember that night seeing people like scrambling on the floor for sort of like a bridge or bows like flying apart. But I thought, it'd be really great to keep mine if I can. So I put a label on the case when we packed up and went home, and I put my name on it. And so obviously they were all delivered back to the Barbican. And I basically said to somebody in admin, could I possibly buy mine? Because I'd really like to have it as a souvenir. And guess how much it was? It was, how much? Well, violin case, I think there was a rosin in there as well. And yeah, bow, it was like 30 quid. And you can't even get, you can barely get anything for your violin for 30 quid. So I thought, that's amazing. Yeah, so I thought I'm going to, and then I had, it's got the Olympic rings and everything all blinged up in crystal. And I had it set into like as if it's my own museum piece. But I just thought that's so cool. It's a once. I've got the because I read it's the mascot, so I've got the mascot here, yeah. Which goes with that. And there's actually another one. I don't know where the other one is, but it's down here. There you go. Wendell, they had really funny names. Wenlock and Mandeville. Okay, no. And the thing was, they were panned quite badly because they look like one-eyed cyclopses. They look like they're sort of CCTV cameras watching you, Yeah. But the actual animations were lovely, and they were all cinema animations, and that was quite a nice few years. Oh. No, I was going to ask you about something, and I've completely forgotten what I was going to ask you about, but it'll come back. Well, I'll ask you. So, how's it being a new dad during lockdown? Oh, hi, Dave Warswick. Dave is a legend. My email. Yeah, reply to her email. So it's great. Do you know what? So the doctors and nurses who delivered him were all colleagues of Annie's. So because, they were colleagues, there's this sort of medical thing, and they were just very relaxed. And it was like kind of, oh, hi, Marix, hello, hope to see you soon. And from Antrona, wow, lovely. So Annie's Italian, and I had a lovely summer at the Antrona Music Festival last year, and they were absolutely lovely. Hello, lovely to see you. Yes, so it was great. And it was a sort of party atmosphere in the operating theatre, very, very relaxed, and it couldn't have gone smoother. It was actually at a COVID hospital, so half the hospital was completely infected and half of the hospital was completely disinfected, and so we were in the safe zone, and it was absolutely fine. Yeah. But it's been lovely because it's been kind of like a baptism of fire, and it's been kind of straight back into the music production. And of course, because I've got a studio here fully kitted out at the back of my house, I can literally walk into the live room is actually the baby's room as well, so it's kind of like you can sort of walk in and out and feed him and change him and come back. But my wife's absolutely amazing, so I'm very lucky. You've got a proper setup behind you, so
I do. It's currently a fish tank. I don't know if you can see. Oh, the monitor's gone off. I had a fish tank on the monitor.
Okay, yeah.
A virtual fish tank, but it's a very, very smart little setup.
Well, do you want to explain what we were doing? Because if some people would have seen my picture on Instagram of Tommy, myself, and our friend Christina in winter wonderland garb, Christmassy. So we must have gone to Winter Wonderland 2 or 3 times together for a laugh.
We did, didn't we?
And then one time Tommy's album, which features his brother playing solo violin, and it's called Christmas Party, and it's just the most amazing sort of mini violin concerto, would you call it?
It's kind of like a sort of pastiche, Christmas pastiche violin concerto. You know, great fun. You know, so lots and lots of tunes you probably know. And my brother was the soloist, and yeah, we went to Winter Wonderland. We recorded loads of videos.
Yeah, make little videos of sort of a kind of sort of photo shoot video thing. And
we had zero marketing budget. Oh, hi Annie. She's just downstairs. Zero marketing budget, so we went to Winter Wonderland.
But we kept worrying we were about to get
amusing videos.
Oh, your wife's tuning in now. Hello, Annie.
Yeah, hi Annie.
We kept wondering we were going to get stopped by security because we were so obviously filming something, but nobody ever sort of came up to say anything, did they? And we just going around filming all this stuff, percussion instruments, mini violin, and just made this whole story. As you can see it on YouTube.
Well, I vaguely remember my brother with an 8th size violin, or was it a 16th size? I don't know what the size of it was. Absolutely tiny.
Roller coaster at one point.
He went on a roller coaster, and you went on the dodgems with them. And you were playing violins on the dodgems like this, and I just remember laughing so much I couldn't hold the camera still. But that was funny because that was a sweet little thing. That was a little violin concerto with my brother, and that was on Classic FM, etc., etc. And of course, you know, if you have no marketing budget for these things, you've got to be creative, and it's all part of the job.
Brilliant.
Creative. So
much
we were
fun.
having a bit of fun,
and we've kind of tried to recreate every time to go back and just have a good laugh with our sort of Christmas party.
We must all go this year. Well, we probably won't be allowed out this year, but
that would be good. Mind you, whenever I go, I always pick a time when no one's going. It's sort of like first 2 days it opens at 10 o'clock in the morning, so you can be guaranteed there's nobody around, and you can just like have free reign, and there's no like, you know, big crowds of people. I'm going to talk about a bit about also where we sort of almost worked together when we went into Classic FM for the charity Global's Make Some Noise. Now, do you remember they actually marketed it as a really long Packer Bells canon? What they wanted was as many people to play Packer Bells canon all day long. So we sort of rocked up. You came along the cello. We hadn't really met properly, and I had my violin. They gave us music for Packer Bells canon, and we sort of said, well, this isn't going to be very interesting, is it, if we just play this all day? And
they're very creative actually about, you know, raising money for charity, and it was a music charity, wasn't it? Global, it sort of makes some noise. It's a music charity. Very good. Money
for great causes, and I think this was the first time they tried to sort of build Classic FM into it. And suddenly Tommy turns to me and goes, do you know Jardas? And I was like, well, yeah, I played it for grade 8, you know, 30 years ago. And he said, let's just play it now. And it was just like, oh my God. And we just started just playing everything we knew, or bringing up music on our phones. And
we were live on the internet. This is the thing. And the thing is, Max, I don't know about you, but I think I have a theory about this. So you've recorded a lot with the LSO, you've recorded with John Music, you've done a lot of recording in high pressure situations. Obviously, I've grown up with recording, and every day is about recording. And of course, there's something about that process that you get very, very, I wouldn't say experienced at, but you find it exciting. And I can sort of put it into words. It's kind of the consistency. You know, if you've got 10 takes of a really hard passage, you don't want like one take that's really good and then loads of crud or crap. You want 6 interesting takes that you can choose from, and editing should be about choosing the interpretation. And I can give a little plug to Nick Daniel here, the oboist. I did a recording with him. I used to do a lot of record producing, and now I don't really have any time for it. It was great fun, but I do some with a Carducci quartet. Emma, the cellist, is my cousin, and we do quite a lot of stuff together still. But with Nick Daniel, every single take that he did And he, if I remember rightly, I hope you wouldn't mind me saying, he just had a hernia operation and he shouldn't really have been playing the oboe, but he played absolutely beautifully, and it's a fantastic disc.
Oh.
And he every single take of his was just different in a really interesting way. It was like, right, let's make music, let's just really, and the focus wasn't on the recording light, you know, it wasn't like it's red now, we're going, this is it. It was just like, look guys, let's make music, just take all this down. I'd far rather leave a tape running for 3.5 hours and just go, you know, because digital editing is so easy to see the waveforms go bang, 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 I'm having that bit. You know, it's much more exciting to just get the musicality going. As you know, Max, I mean, is it true? Were you on that John Williams session, the first one? I know you probably weren't because you're far too young, but the first one with Maurice Murphy, and apparently bam, you know, the opening fanfare. I mean, I've heard this story from a few people. I think the Broadbents, who are family friends, and apparently John Williams wrote it in B flat to match obviously it's a wonderful key for the trumpet, but also to match the end of I can't get this right, the original ident for, I don't know whether it was MGM or whatever, but it was the same. It was probably 20th Century Fox, I'm not quite sure. Anyway, there we go. But one of those opening titles was in the same key, and he started bam, ba-da-dam, ba-da-dam, ba-da-dam.
No, I haven't heard that actually before. And it is before my 1977, my dear. So
of course, sorry, you're far too young for that, Max. But what I was going to say was, apparently the story goes that he walked in the session and just said, ladies and gentlemen, your finest sound, please. There we go, 20th Century Fox. Somebody's corrected me. Thank you so much. 20th Century Fox fanfare. There you go. Look it up. I think it's Alfred Newman. And he then went on the same key, which is the kind of musical thinking that every film composer should be doing. But he's wonderful, because apparently he came in and said, ladies and gentlemen, your finest sound, please. And they went, bam, bam, and Maurice Murphy down his trumpet. And apparently that first take is the one that you hear. And I just love that. For me, that's electric. You know, that, I mean, I'm sure it's the same with you, Max, but that's the kind of music making that you want to be engaging in.
Yeah, of course. It's rather than when it's picked to pieces, and I'm not going to name any, you know, I've done thousands of recordings in 20 years of, you know, or, oh, we need to get the second note of bar 12. That is the sort of recording process that nobody really likes.
Do you know, Max, I had a good one the other day. So I did a paid arrangement for, I'm not going to say who, for an album, right? And the feedback came back from a mate of mine. He said, that's the first time I've ever thought that the arrangement is better than the original source material. That's really weird. It's so weird. You know, it's like we've all heard on the radio kind of, you know, really bad music, really well recorded,
yeah,
and also really good music, really badly recorded. And it's kind of like, it's always a mix of those, isn't it? And it's very rare that you get something that's incredibly recorded and it's a good piece of music.
I remember going into when I was a student at the academy, and in the days before you had, all the, you know, any sort of downloads and easy access to YouTube, I would go into the music library, headphones, you would borrow the CDs, put them on. And I loved Wagner, the Tristan and Isolde, the opening prelude. And I remember the CD I would always listen to had such, I still think of it now whenever I play, there's an edit point which is so badly done. You just hear it. It's like
da 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 dee. Did you know a little bit of trivia that I didn't know till recently? You know the Gollywog's Cakewalk by Debussy. He takes the piss out of the Tristan.
Yeah.
Isn't that? I didn't know that.
My piano teacher told me that when I was learning it, and I was really rubbish at the piano, but I really remembered that because obviously I was already really into orchestral music, because it was Wagner. I thought, oh, I'm amazed you didn't know that. It always makes me laugh when I hear it. So his way of just,
that's so funny.
That's like rubbish or something. Oh,
absolutely, yeah.
But yes, what else can we talk about in the life?
Well, can I give a hilarious little tiny plug for this single?
Oh yes, you must.
Can I do it? I hate people who plug things, so actually I won't do it. Basically, we've been very lucky to write this choral lockdown single, which has got to #1 in the iTunes charts, I think, singles chart, and it's been played on Plastic FM a lot, and it's gone very well. And I don't mind plugging it because it is in aid of wonderful charities which support mental health for people suffering in lockdown. So it's a very important cause. If you feel like, plug away, says somebody, thank you. If you feel like going on to Spotify or Apple Music or whatever and listening to the track, it's called Can You Hear Me? It's called Can You Hear Me by me with Laura Wright. By me, I'm saying who wrote it. So lyrics are by Matt Harvey, who's a long-time collaborator of mine, absolutely brilliant wordsmith, and it's Laura Wright on the choir of Royal Holloway. So it's called Can You Hear Me? And it is all about the difficulty of being in lockdown. It's all about the stuff that we're experiencing, and hopefully it's quite sort of therapeutic in itself. But it's, if you know, even if you just stream it once, it's raising money for wonderful things. So thank you very much for doing that. Oh, and one other thing, if anybody, this is a slightly left field thing, but if anybody misses singing together during lockdown, there's a thing called the RSCM was it Music Sunday this Sunday, which is an online like choral thing, and I don't know if you're into choral music, but anybody that is, it's a wonderful thing. Okay. And I've written an anthem for it. It's John Rutter and me and a bit of Stanford. And
okay.
If you like that sort of thing.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Because of course you sort of you became.
Oh, hi Sharon. Sorry. Hi Sharon. Sharon's amazing. She's just
through the David Cameron little ditty that you wrote. Do you remember? Remind us what happened there.
Oh God, that's years ago now. It was 2016. David Cameron sung. He handed over to Theresa May, and it was he kind of messed up the country. He handed over to Theresa May and walked into number 10, and he was caught on camera singing. I think it was do 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 or something like that. Do 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 something like that.
Coming away to himself, wasn't he?
Yes, and I was powering down my kit late at night, and Classic FM put on their social media channel, or anybody fancy improvising or having a go at this, and I just thought, well, why not? So I spent about 3 hours writing and recording a sort of, but it was funny because it just came out, I was really tired, so it came out really emotional and kind of, and it ended up being this sort of anthem of our times, whatever. It went all over the world, and it went all over CNN, and it was to the point that a week later I was kind of like, I couldn't really cope, we reached this sort of breaking point, and I was like, okay, I need to get away. And so I took a tent and I went to Shropshire with a friend of mine, switched off all social media, switched off phone, switched off laptop, and I just went camping for like 3 days, and I was cooking my bacon on a little camping stove to kind of deal with it all. Such is the price of fame. Not really. As a composer, you don't really get normally known, and that's nice, but it was one of these absolutely ridiculous situations.
Because what I remember about it is one of the times we went into Classic FM, and Mylene class was sort of jamming with us, and she was chatting to us, and she said, "She's a hoot. She's a lot." You're that guy from the David Cameron thing.
So the thing is, Max. I mean, look, we're all joking about all these silly things, but the actual point of all of this is to get more people talking about music and get more people enjoying music. This Can You Hear Me thing was basically to get more people singing choral music in lockdown and raising money. And the whole point is, music education. Everybody, you and I had a lucky, it won't be on live on Maxine's Instagram, but it'll be online on their online thing. I'll send a link later or something. But basically, Max, I think everybody should have access to music education from a young age, and we both did. We were very lucky, and I remember going on Channel 5 after the David Cameron thing, and this kind of how sort of straight-jacketed those Channel 5 news presenters are. Like, today in the world we are talking about this, and then we got Thomas Hewitt-Jones here, and I was sort of unshaven, with trainers on. But I basically, he asked me all about it, and I just said, well, I think everybody should have a free music education from, I was going on and on and on. And I think somebody needs to do this. And obviously it's not our position to do, not our job to do that, but somebody has to be channeling all of these kind of needs of everybody.
Very, very lucky to be born in a borough which supported massively music education. If it was happening now, it would be very, very different. And if only, if I can't imagine how music would be if everybody had the chance to learn an instrument. Can you imagine? Or at least have a pick of an instrument, if you weren't very good at, I'm going to say something about my friend Daniel Bates, who's also from our hometown. I remember him very much when we were about 7 or 8 years old, and he was a violinist, and I thought, oh my God, he's terrible. And then a few years later, he picks up the oboe, and he's some sort of incredible oboe star in about 6
Wow.
not even.
Well, I should probably say, Max, so Annie's friend, very good friend, one of my best friends in Italy, called Albi, runs this incredible Italian orchestra for young people. And he does this absolutely amazing work, and gets everybody playing. And their whole sort of ethos, which I think is amazing, is to get everybody to try every instrument before like deciding. Do you know what I mean? It's not like, right, here's a violin, you're playing the violin. It's like, you know, you can actually try everything out and make it. I love that idea.
I could be.
And I think for orchestrators, sorry, I keep talking at you.
I could be
so many ideas.
Trombonist. I could be an amazing trombonist if I'd only tried. Who knows? No, but I dispute. There is no question that every single person will have an affinity to some instrument, whether it's woodwind, brass, or strings. It's impossibility that somebody would not have an ability or a talent for something. I mean, which is what is so wonderful about singing, because everybody can partake of singing and being in a choir, and that's what's so sad about, what they've said now about, choirs being a more dangerous way of spreading the virus until, there's a time when I guess there's vaccinations and all that, because the most amazing sort of sound from a choir, and that's just people, human emotions and voices at their most raw. That's just so
powerful.
bad.
And we can't do that in lockdown, can we?
No,
it doesn't really work.
There's a lot of things we can't really, I mean, I'd love to, gosh, I miss playing with my orchestra. Like, it's sort of like having your arm cut off or something, because it doesn't quite feel the same. I do practice most days, but it's not really the same as, the whole process of collaboration and creating something together, and the sound. Because much as I love the sound of violins, I'm not saying my own violin playing, but I'm just saying the violin. For me, it's all about putting the instruments together, being together, and the sound that comes
together.
So it's that is quite tricky, and maybe, I don't know, maybe we will learn to appreciate what we had a bit more than before, because I think it's only when you don't really have it.
Jill's just saying here they're doing choir on Zoom, and the City of London Symphony have joined, so they probably can't really do things on Zoom too much. I think it's absolutely right. It has to be done in some way together. And I noticed that Abbey Road and Air Studios are both doing recordings now in either sort of 2 meter distance. And I worry if it's too early, I worry, because in all these protests, everybody's going to be, I don't know, I'm a bit worried. A friend of mine's husband is trying to get the antibody test, the vaccine in Cambridge. And they were telling me, it's a year off at least. And of course the strains can change, and there are localized strains, and I don't know, it's a very dodgy subject.
One, really, everything about, say, being in a choir and orchestra represents all the things that we shouldn't really be doing. But on the other hand, we have to be able to, I guess, adapt and hope and move forward. Just that they have to be as safe as, from what I've seen, those recording sessions were, pretty distant, and sometimes, just strings on one day, and then the next day maybe woodwind and then brass, all separated out. So the experience is a little different than before, but in a way there has to be some tentative steps forward, because it's really hard for freelance musicians, especially when there is nothing, you cannot really bring any of that home unless you have a really, really great setup, really great kind of equipment at home to record with, and that's what makes it very difficult. Just to say, if anyone got a specific question for Tommy, to pop it in the comments. Bill says, I can't see us getting back singing anytime soon.
No, I know, and we all have to cope with these Zoom things and recorded choirs as much as we can at the moment, don't we? It's very difficult.
Yeah.
It's difficult for everybody. I mean, there's one chap called Robert King who's got a home set up with a sort of camera setup. You know, he's saying that choirs can come in isolation and record videos and things. And I mean, there are gonna have to be new ways of working, I think, aren't there? I mean, I was thinking certainly regarding the arts funding, like everybody. Maybe these cooperatives can work somehow. You know, concert halls can work in the same way as sort of vintage cinema. You know, having sort of everybody's part of a cooperative, and then there's seed funding that's kind of brought in by investors to kind of get the ball rolling, with the awareness that the arts can generate lots of profit, really, and money as well, you know, in the right way. But it's just that the arts have to be supported in a mainstream capacity because everybody needs the arts. And I think maybe people should sort of delineate between, you know, what's you know, because some of the cutting edge art is not going to make any money for a few years. And I think there have to be different streams with the knowledge that, you know, everybody needs to have access to an LSO concert. Everybody needs to go and see the Fighting Temeraire in the National Gallery, you know, some Turner paintings or whatever, in order to kind of keep sane. But then maybe there's sort of you know, the stuff that the Arts Council sort of throws money into brick wall and somebody creates a sort of £20,000 sculpture that sings in the wind. Maybe there's some way you can say that's not quite as important when we've got to, you know, keep everybody going artistically for a while. I don't know, it's difficult.
Yeah. What's your sort of take on free content online, for example? Because, you know, it's been going online for about 10, 11, 12 weeks, and there's been masses of free content. I've watched National Theatre, Royal Opera House and ballets. Obviously the LSO puts out concerts twice a week, and at some point, you know, that's great because people have to put their you know, nobody wants to sort of get forgotten. We want to offer people arts, especially at a time when, you know, everyone, you know, it's difficult for people, and mental health and everything. So, but at some point there has to be, you know, if you were going to a concert, you would, you know, pay whatever it would be. So at what point do we start saying, well, in a way, people need to start contributing to what the experience, because a lot of people have put time and effort into this digital online content for it to be all going out for free, and then are people want to pay again once they're, you know, going back to things? It's a tricky one.
I mean, Max, this is a whole can of worms because, of course, the digital rights management issue. So all these free streams that are going out, there are then bots that are claiming the copyright in the recording or in the copyright in the work itself, and they're sort of claiming works and taking the streams down again. And there's a lot of this kind of stuff going on, and it's very, very complex. I mean, my own take is that it's very good that rights are protected for all parties, you know, because it's not really fair that anybody does something for free. Equally, there must be permission for somebody to do a lockdown concert, for example, the National Theatre, to put out a wonderful theatre show for a week and say that is a week, enjoy it. Then after a week it comes down, and then people have to, you know, realize, actually I really enjoyed that opera or that LSO concert, it was amazing. You know, I think free content is okay as a promotional tool, as I'm sure, yeah, right, the Barbican's agreeing. So you know, people have to maybe, and even, you know, donate. Say, look, if you enjoyed the content, please donate to this. People are very, like, people are kind of post internet now. They're kind of post Cambridge Analytica. I think people are very honest. I don't know, what do you think, Max? I think people are very honest about, you know, good causes. The COVID is bringing out the best in people in some ways. Like, the arts are in a terrible state, and people do, yeah, exactly, like you're saying, and people do have to think of ways, think of their fellow musicians, think of, you know, I mean, a lot of these people claiming, you know, amazing grants given by the ISM, not the ISM, sorry, the Help Musicians, etc. people, and then people are giving back. People are saying, actually, you know, I can afford it this month, so I'm gonna put this back in there. It's really important that fellow musicians are supported. I mean, I think very much these free periods are fine. You know, 2 weeks of this, and then you have to purchase it. It's advertising, but I don't think. I mean, one other thing, Max. Sorry, I'm talking so much. Is through the generations, the medium has always changed, hasn't it? As we know. I mean, in the 1920s, the pianola began to come in and kill, and also the talkie. You know, the end of the cinema organist, which had been the kind of the thing for so many years, and then of course the sound film, and then of course the CD replaced the tape and the mini disc. I grew up with the mini discs,
Well,
which
the
were great.
was
And you
the
could,
window, tiny window.
yeah, the 8-track compression actually was pretty good. But actually, you know, but at the end of the day, great music is great music, isn't it? I mean, you know, people are going to be listening to great music for years, and they'll always want to hear the LSO. But I think the smaller arts companies have a real problem, don't they? I think they really do need to be supported. And the problem is who is the gatekeeper? Who are they? The people with the money? Are they the people that decide? It shouldn't be them. It should be, and this is why I think a cooperative, if people can say, look, 30 people, we absolutely love the LSO, like you probably do. I don't know the details, but 8-track, but you know, actually saying, well, what repertoire should we do? Should we vote for the next symphony, and should we get Rattle, or should we get, you know, and then actually
for the next symphony, I'd be constantly going, Marla, please.
Right, and instead of taking all the cash out, you know, when you get full houses, why don't you think we'll put it in a bond for the next 20 years and actually support the orchestra for an extended period? Or why don't we forward plan all the time? There have to be ways of sorting this problem.
Yeah, it's a very, very tricky. I mean, they talk about, was it the South Bank saying they may not reopen until the spring? I mean, luckily for the LSO, we have our own venue. We have LSO St. Luke's, which to start.
And it's sort of modern, isn't it? Because of course we all know that old buildings go horrible after a while. You know, they have to have constant renovation.
Even though, for example, it's closed, it's still costing money because it's, you know, the time is passing. Things need to be, you know, looked after, and it's, you know, but we are quite lucky to have that because, you know, many orchestras are basically held hostage by whether the concert hall can reopen or not. And because you don't have a venue, then, you know, where else are you going to kind of be able to play? And, you know, and how many people are going to want to come and see concerts and things. I mean, hopefully, I would hope that people will. I
think also the key is that we all know that the government can produce money out of a hat, and that they will probably find a way to support everybody. But our tax bills are going to go sky high for the next 10 years. So we all have to sort of put money under the bed or something, not that, but something. We have to be prepared for difficult times ahead. I should also say, Max, that my dad is in the Royal Opera House. He's a cellist in the orchestra. And of course, they've got a problem because they have to fill 95% capacity. Otherwise, they don't break even because they've got so many, you know, thousands of employees. And it's a very difficult situation for the arts-funded organisations.
Yeah.
But they are the sort of flagship opera house of this country, so I think they do deserve to.
I know, it's very.
Everybody deserves it.
Concerts generally are never really profitable. I mean, that's what
really
Joe Public is always very surprised at, because.
Not when you charge your fees, Max. Not when you charge your high fees.
No, I mean concert tickets. I mean, you can see the LSO for probably like £5 if you're a student, and you know it probably goes from £5 to £42 or something, which I think, you know, as a night out is really pretty decent for 2.5 hours worth of live music and a nice comfy seat. And I think people are surprised that, you know, obviously there's only a certain amount of seats. There's quite a lot of people on stage, and plus perhaps, you know, big conductor's fee, big soloist fee. So generally, you know, it's not that anyone in classical music is really there to kind of make a hell of a lot of money, because most of us. Well,
actually, do you know, Max, so we're in lockdown. Everybody's being honest. Can I just be honest? And I probably wouldn't say this normally, but I'm going to say it. I'm not going to say who it is. A friend of mine went and played in an orchestra for a gig, and I won't give you any details. This was 2 years ago. It was the Beethoven Triple with 3 very, very, very famous soloists, right? And it was a charity concert raising money for the orchestra, and everybody playing in the orchestra was being paid about 90 quid, right? So all the players rocked up, 90 quid. I think it was a 3-hour rehearsal and a 3-hour concert and home, or 3-hour rehearsal, 2-hour concert and home. The soloists apparently rocked up at the end of the rehearsal, slammed through the Beethoven Triple quite badly, let's be honest, went away, had a pizza, did the concert, first half, buggered off home, sorry, excuse the language, went off home, did their bit, went home, and they were being paid £250,000 each. Each.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it's not worth it, but I'm questioning, is anybody's time worth that?
Absolutely.
Is it really right that conductors, sorry, I'm being really passionate, is it really right that people like that are charging that and then people at the bottom end can't eat? I've got friends who can't eat because they can't get the gigs as a freelancer, and I think that is wrong.
Yeah, there's something inherently wrong with sharing a stage with someone who, I mean, that's a lot. I mean, that's however many years of working. You know, somebody's on stage playing for, you know, half an hour, and they've earned what you would you'd hope to earn in 5, 6, 7, 8 years if you could, and yet you're still creating the same, you're still within the same process. But then that is kind of the same with so many, you know, who decides how much a Premier League footballer should earn. And I don't know, it opens up a whole different kind of argument. I mean, I totally agree with you, having been one of those people who was, you know, part of the 90 quid brigade, let's pack our own sandwiches and try and share it.
Well, right.
You know, there is quite a divide in the arts, a very, you know, the very, you know, high few, but for sort of Joe general person, whatever, you know, we're generally not in this profession to make a lot of money, because it ain't gonna happen. You'll make a nice living. I'm not saying that, you know, when I'm actually working, I'm able to make a very, you know, a nice, decent living, and I'm extremely lucky because I get a lot of love from it. I do it because I really, really want to, not because it's a job. It's, I suppose, like a sort of vocation, if you like, usually going into music as such, because it takes up so much more of your time than you could possibly imagine. And there's no set time, there's no set schedule. It can be any time. You could work ridiculous hours, be coming back very late from venues or whatever. But you do it generally because you really, really love it, and it's a good, you know, job.
So my younger brother is an investigative journalist in finance sector in New York, and he's younger than me. But basically, I think, having talked to him, that somebody needs to investigate things a little bit clearer with Spotify streaming, not Spotify particularly, but online streaming, and the way that's influenced the music profession, music listening, and music creators. Because I think very much that the streaming is a great thing in general. It's great that everybody has access to music, but I do worry that the sort of format is now changing the way that music's written and consumed, to the extent that people will not really have the patience to sit down and listen to a whole concert. And I really sort of, in a way, lament the day when people would buy a whole album and listen to a whole symphony or a whole program, you know. And I think it's basically, I think this might be partly bound up in some kind of solution involving cooperatives, because if people are really invested in the ASO and they really want to investigate every program, you have a wonderful program creator who's made a great season and really attached the kind of meaning behind streaming, has become fast food, as someone said. And I think if people are if people are introduced to music in the right way, they will absolutely get involved in it. You know, if people aren't taught what an opera is and why it works as an art form, they'll probably get overwhelmed by it. Do you know what I mean? They probably, because they're so used to Ed Sheeran, which has its own market and its own reason, you know, and that's great. But what does slightly get my goat is that, you know, Ed Sheeran, Galway Girl had 9 songwriters, not 2 or 3, but 9. And Ed Sheeran he's obviously very, very talented, and I have a lot of respect for what he's done. But it's playing the Spotify numbers. It's saying, look, I need to get this, I need to get that in order to get that. And I'm just going to do this. It's like the Stock Aitken Waterman hit factory of the 80s. You're going to Paris, listening all night to the hits on the radio and just writing down all the bits to make a hit song and just making a hit song. And that's fine. But it's a different thing. And I think people need to realize that actually, you know, classical music is all the big things. It's all the important stuff. You know, it's the life and the death and the passion and all the important human stuff. And actually, it's easy to forget.
50 seconds before we get cut off. So,
Oh, sorry. It's been lovely to speak to you.
so do you want to sum up anything while you've got 45 seconds about what you think of music or any?
Oh, well, it's lovely. It's lovely to meet you all, and I think that we have to just go for our push the passion of music and the important stuff. You know what music is and why we all love it, and the participation and the enjoyment and the meaning of it all, and reflecting on the meaning of life. You know, what does it mean to be a thinking and feeling human being with ups and downs and and passions and desires, and that's the best bit of it. Anyway, love you all. Thank you so much.
Tommy, so much. That was so interesting. And love to
you too. Lovely to hear you.
And see you soon.
Thank you. Bye everybody. Lots of love. Cheers. Bye. Bye. Keep well. Bye.